Are you living for yourself or are you living for other people's expectations? Take a second to think about that. Like, that is a true question that I want you to reflect. Instantly, I know myself and I'll be like, I am living for me. That's why I ask you to sit with that and really think about what it is that you want and maybe what are some expectations that you feel as though you have on yourself. Maybe from society, from family, friends. Are you living for yourself or are you living for the expectations that others have of you? Hey, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad that you're tuning in today. My name is Angelica, and around here we talk about how to create a life that feels good for you and not just looks good. Today I'm going to be sharing how to recognize external pressures, set boundaries, and embrace your authentic self, especially when the world tells you otherwise. We'll be covering how to identify moments where you may be living for others and not yourself, exercises for self-reflection such as journaling or just being mindful of your choices, setting boundaries and saying no without guilt, accepting imperfection, and prioritizing authenticity over approval. Let's start off by talking what it means to truly be yourself. And I can definitely speak that this can be super confusing, especially once you take the time to actually reflect on what it is that you want, you need, and what it is that you think that you want just because you think that that's the right thing to do. And what's most important is to really just identify your values so that we can ensure that you're living your life aligned with your values and not just society's checklists such as getting a job, getting married, having kids, and whatever else society says that you should be doing at X age. So we have to start to recognize what it is that you want, what it is that you need versus what others expect of you. And this is a daily practice, not just a one-time decision. It's going to take effort and hard work for you to really truly understand who your authentic self is, who it is that you would be without the expectations if there was such a world, and truly feeling as though you're living in the truth of who you are and feeling confident in being yourself. And I want to be clear that being true to yourself does not mean for you to be selfish. As a side note, selfish can be both a good thing and a bad thing. It's about, with anything, just having the right balance. But when it comes to being true to yourself, it's not about only focusing on yourself. It's about ensuring that the life that you're living is aligned with the values that you have. Now let's talk a little bit more about the weight of expectations, because there is so much. I feel as though in today's day and age, we have so many expectations because not only do we just have generalized society expectations, but we now have social media. And with every good comes a bad, right? There's always a counter to everything that will happen in life. And with social media, although it provides us so much great things, it also puts a lot of weight on our shoulders because we're constantly seeing the other lives of people we went to elementary school with, famous people, people from all around the world. And what we need to focus on is that those people aren't us. And it's nice to use those people for inspiration and motivation. However, at the end of the day, it's important for us to make sure that we are taking enough time to spend with ourselves to understand who we are so that we can ensure that we're aligned with the values that we're moving towards. And I will be the first to tell you, I compare myself on social media, especially being a content creator and creating videos and sharing portions of my life. I look at other content creators and think to myself, they've been doing this for less time than me and they have more followers. Maybe my content is not valuable. Maybe people aren't enjoying the content that I'm putting out there. And just because I have less likes or less followers than them does not mean that I'm not providing value, does not mean that whatever it is that I'm putting out there is not interesting to someone. There is over 7 billion people in this world. Someone is interested in this video. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made it this far in, right? When we catch ourselves in those thoughts, let's say you're scrolling through social media and you notice someone that you are friends with is always on vacation. You start thinking to yourself, well, I haven't taken a vacation, and why is this person always on a vacation? And all those different thoughts that come into your head. The first step is to recognize, oh, I'm comparing myself to this person. And honestly, if you don't want to go any further than that, especially in the beginning, I definitely understand. Just noticing at the very least makes such an improvement, such a difference, because as time goes on, you'll be able to continue to, you notice it when you're at the market. You notice notice it when you're driving on the road. You notice it when you're scrolling through social media. You notice it when you're talking to one of your friends or a family member. You start to notice, wow, I actually am comparing myself a lot. I actually am living towards the expectations of other people. And where did this come from? These are the types of thoughts that you will eventually start to have once you start noticing. So that's why it's important. First step is to just start noticing exactly what it is that you're comparing yourself to and why it is that you think you're comparing yourself to that. Really important in all of this work that we are super mindful of ourselves and a lot of self-reflection. It takes a lot of work, but the work is worth it. And I want to let you know, this pretty much everything that I talk about is still things that I am actively working on. I don't feel as though anyone will ever be in the place where they're not working on these things, or they don't have to, right? Like there's no such thing as perfection. We're never going to be perfect at not comparing ourselves or be perfect at being our authentic self. However, we can always strive to be better, right? So this is something that I'm always constantly working on, and something that I have struggled with in the past so much, and to this day still struggle with, is perfectionism. Always feeling as though you should be further along, it should be better than this, or what's holding you back from starting that business that you've been thinking about for the past few years now. Well, you don't have this, you don't have that. I bet you can come up with over 100 different excuses as to why you haven't started yet. The truth is, you're really just being a perfectionist. You want every little detail to come out perfectly, and you're allowing that to hold you back from actually being able to get closer to that perfection. And with all of these pressures from social media, from society, from perfectionism, really weighs us down. And before we know it, we start to get burnt out. We no longer have the motivation to even work towards what it is that we may be comparing ourselves to. And that's really what stumps our growth. We start to feel shameful. We start to feel disconnected, which would make sense, right? Because we're focusing on all things externally when truly the only thing that's within our control is what's happening internally. And so it's best for us to truly turn internally and reflect what's happening, why is it happening, and what is within my control today to get me closer to where I want to be. How can I get closer to being my authentic self? I feel like our judgment can be super cloudy because we have information coming from every angle that we can possibly think of, saying you should do this, you should do that. There's so many things that are expected. It's really hard sometimes to really tune in and ask yourself, what do I actually want? And do I want these things just because someone has told me that I should want them? Why do I want them? What do I want? Who am I? And what is going to fulfill me to the depths of my soul? It sounds like a very serious type of question, because it is. So let's make sure that we take the time to actually reflect on these things. Which leads me into our next discussion, which is going to be practical steps to reconnect with yourself. If you've watched any of my previous journals, you will know I'm a big advocate for journaling. I think that journaling brings out thoughts that you wouldn't normally have. It's helpful to have a track record on how you've thought, what your concerns have been throughout the years. And it also allows, especially if you're working with some type of journaling prompt, it allows you to focus in on this one question and simply write what comes to mind on that question, on that thought. And sometimes when you're just thinking about these things, you start to think of other things like, oh, I have to do the laundry, I gotta cook dinner, whatever it may be. You may have those thoughts, but when you take the time to journal them, you'll still have those thoughts, but you can say, okay, well, actually, I am writing this down. Like, it is so helpful to just engage your body with your thoughts at the same time so that you can really become one and in tune with yourself. Meditation, as I'm sure that you've heard, if you've looked into anything wellness, and the first time that I came across meditation and what it was probably back in 2018. And there was a period in my life where I was meditating every single day. And when I tell you, I finally understand the Kool-Aid. You know, when like something is so good and you hear from people like, this has helped me, this has helped me. And you're like, I don't get it. And then you finally try it and you're like, I understand it now. Like, that was me with meditation. For beginners out there who maybe have not meditated or has done it in the past but feel like you're not good at it, it gets really frustrating for me to hear that, because of course you're not good at it. It's not something that you've practiced, right? With anything, you need to practice it more in order to get better at it. So when you sit down to meditate for 2 minutes and you're frustrated because you keep thinking about a whole bunch of other things, that is information that is helpful for us to be mindful of. You know, every time you try to sit in, there's all these things coming up for you. And then we start to slowly, okay, well, let's dismiss that, right? Let's be mindful and talk to ourselves. I am dedicating these next 2 minutes to meditate, to focus on the present. If something comes up, there will be another time I can think about that. Right now, let's redirect back to our breath and back to the present moment. There are so many tools, and if that's a video that you'd be interested in seeing from me, I'd be more than happy to kind of walk you through exactly how I go through meditation, the different practices that have helped me focus in. But there are tons of videos and information out there on this, especially now. It's feel like it's coming up more and more these days. So highly recommend meditation. And you'd be surprised on how much our body is connected with our mind. To start to reconnect with yourself is going to be paying attention to your body. Personally, giving you an example, sometimes when I'm driving, I will notice that like my shoulders, they're a bit clenched, and I'll just, oh wow. And I'll realize that like my glutes, I am like super tense, especially if like, you know, there's some traffic or someone just cut me off. Like I will realize, oh wow, like my muscles are like very tense right now. When you start to really pay attention, it will actually start to speak so much more to you. You'll realize where you're holding tension, and all of that is information that's going to help us throughout this journey of reconnection and being your authentic self. Now, this one is going to be a hard one. I say that because my whole life I've defined success as big houses, fancy cars, so much money in the bank. I don't know how much money I have. Like when I was a kid, that was success for me. And where I am in my life now, believe me, those things still are nice and I would love to have them one day. I no longer see that as success. What success is for me is fulfillment. And it takes some time to get used to this, especially because, as we've talked about, social media, society, we tend to prioritize and reward the external materials that you get, and that is what success has become. When sure, you know, let's say you do use that as your gauge of success, you now have those things. Now what? I can tell you from personal experience, when you're using external materials as your measure of success, you're always just going to look for the next thing. In order for you to truly feel fulfilled, is, as I mentioned earlier, we turn this inward. Determining your success on your fulfillment, aligning it with your values, is going to help you reconnect with yourself and be your most authentic self. Practice setting boundaries and learn when to say no. This is going to be a trial and error on determining what does suiting your needs look like. Should you go to an event because you want to or because you feel like it's the right thing to do? Really reflecting on the choices that you make. Identify if you're just looking to please someone else when making a decision, or if it's truly something that you want to do. And I understand there's a difference of wanting to be there and support the loved ones in your life. However, you know, it's something that we really want to reflect on so that we can ensure that we're taking the time to understand our values. Once we learn our values and we determine maybe I don't feel joy or enthusiastic about going to an event with my family, but I do have a value of family. So I do want to show my support, right? It's about learning what that balance looks like. And if you're not practicing no now, you're going to have a hard time understanding exactly where those boundaries are and where they should be set. Now that we've talked about different examples, what it looks like in your life potentially, and what are going to be the best ways to practice it, I definitely want to make sure that we take the time to talk about what are going to be the benefits of you being yourself. If being yourself isn't already a benefit, there are way more that come with it. From the get, it is going to create just deeper connections, right? Because you are being your true self. You're not allowing the external pressures to determine who you should be, rather determining who you are, what your values are, and living aligned with those. When you're living in that truth, others around you will be impacted by that. And some may not like the new version of you. Some may really like the new version of you. You may learn to meet new people who are even more aligned with who you are and how to be and how to stay true to yourself. Now, I want to emphasize that when I say being around those who are more aligned with you, I don't want you to think that having diversity is not important, right? As I've mentioned, balance is very important. We want to make sure that we have authentic relationships that we can trust to go to someone who may be a devil's advocate, who can give you other opinions and not just agreeing with everything that comes to mind for you. That is not a friend. What we're looking for is, when it comes to the core, is this person someone who is truly my friend for who I am and who I am presenting, and not this fake person that I've created an identity for. So those deeper connections that you will have with people will feel just so much more truer, and you will feel true to yourself for allowing yourself to be yourself. It will inevitably just build your resilience, because once you start to know your truth, sit in your truth, be authentically yourself, criticism comes. It may affect you, it may not. However, it will help you be more resilient in those situations, because sure, we're all human and sometimes things are going to get to us. As I've mentioned, no such thing as perfection, but we can get better at receiving that criticism and not taking it personally, not bringing it internally, because we are familiar with what the truth is. We are familiar with who we are, and we're able to believe in that, put no shame in that, and actually live through it. It becomes much easier to hear the criticism of others, because you know what your path is. And the opinion of someone else who's lived an entire different experience as you cannot be compared, right? As we've talked about, no comparison. As we've mentioned, comparing yourself to others can be very heavy. You're feeling freer, you're feeling more at peace, because you're no longer searching and running for someone else's approval. What is so impactful for yourself, and not just for yourself, but for the community, is to be inspiring, right? We need to see the examples of people going through the discomfort, going through the different stages of who they are as a human, and see the progress that they've made. You will be super inspirational, and not only for others, which is going to be great, but for yourself as well. You can look back and say, wow, like I remember when, this was something that I cared so much about, and now I realize that no wonder why I was so dissatisfied or unhappy. I was focusing my life on something that really wasn't what I truly cared for. These realizations are inspirational, and they can help you continue your practice. They can help others feel like it's okay to be yourself. This person has gone through this journey that I've been able to witness, and it's remarkable. And if they can do it, then I can do it, right? And we need that for ourselves and for our communities to be able to grow and live a more fulfilling life. At the end of the day, being true to yourself is not just about doing everything perfectly. It's about choosing alignment over approval of others. It's about giving yourself the permission to live the life that you want, even if the world doesn't understand it. I'd love to know, what's one area of your life that you feel the need to meet a certain expectation? How are you working or plan to work on staying true to yourself? Share it in the comment section, because your story may be what someone else needs to hear. You can start to be that inspiration today. Please go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and turn on your alert notifications so you can be notified once I release my next video. And if anything in this video landed with you, please share it with someone else who needs to hear it. Keep showing up, keep it realistic, and most importantly, keep it you. See you next time.